There we go. So we're going to talk about how to organize your presentation. Here's my fun little animation. And then organize, get organized. Okay. So there's sort of three chunks of this that you're going to be thinking about. So first, setting the scene. Okay. So setting the scene means briefly introducing yourself and your learning environment. So that can be, my name is Tara and I teach 5th grade at this school, and my learners are somewhat, used to coding in the classroom. Could be something like that, but you really want to give us some relevant information about your learners, and that can kind of help us set some relevant information about the project as well. So if you primarily worked with coding, you may want to introduce your learners and your learning environment with some information about coding, what they're familiar with. If it's not about coding, it might be creativity, it might be technology in general. Like my students are used to using iPads. My students have never used iPads in this classroom. Whatever it is, you want to give us a little context, but it doesn't have to be lengthy. So this is the big chunk, and this is what I want you to practice mostly next week. I want you to be thinking about what this might be. So it's the moment, okay? And the moment for us, right? We need you to describe what that moment is. You need to fill in the blank with your own word. So was it most meaningful, most exciting, your biggest aha moment? Maybe it's something different. Maybe it's the biggest challenging moment or the most challenging moment. Maybe it was the most, I don't know, the moment that most revealed the most about your students' resilience, or there's something there in that moment, but it needs to be clear to you what that moment was. And then you need to kind of relate that to us. It can be about you too. I mean, it can be about your learning moment, your aha moment. It can be about an individual learner, although I would make sure that you are not, that it's maybe one learner's experience that kind of shows us the whole learner experience maybe, or shows us what that impact would be. Or it could be a group of learners. So if you had a particular team of learners who were working hard on something, and they broke into groups and they broke down their job descriptions on their own or something like that. It might be a team of learners. So any details that you share should really help us understand why that moment was important. But without giving us like every detail of the step-by-step, but we should kind of understand the main points of the action and the moment. All right, so this is the end, right? This is the end of the sunset. This is what your parting words as you ride off. This is the beautiful ending. So this is where you're going to reflect on the experience. This is where you're going to put your own take on what it was. You can share your thoughts about either like the lasting impact. It could be things you might change in the future. It can be your hopes for the future. Some sort of reflection on all of that. And this can be, again, it can be a combination of your learning and their learning. And then end with a powerful statement. So we see this with our community education initiatives groups, where Apple says, actually most sessions that we attend kind of end with, I used to think, and now I know. Or I used to think, and now I think. And the idea is filling in those blanks to show your growth or to show your change, to show that you have been kind of, that knowledge has come to you and it has impacted the way that you are thinking about other things. You can use that statement if you want. You can use the I used to think and now I think as your ending statement. Or you can use your own, if you have kind of a motto or kind of a, that thing you're going to take on to the next round. So that is one way of organizing it, is into these sort of 3 chunks. I am a visual person, so I made a drawing of what this looks like. So I have, obviously, in numbered order, right, as you present it, you have this sort of introduction, hello, kind of what we usually do, what we decided to try. This is sort of setting up your learning environment. You have that big, awesome thing that you're going to talk about, whatever that is. And then you're going to have videos and audio and reflection. And then you're going to have your big idea, your big mic drop at the end. How I would start organizing this is actually different from chronological order. I would actually start thinking about your awesome thing. And then I would work backwards. So I would work on the awesome thing first. And then the introduction is pretty simple. And you know that the next piece has to tie who you are into that awesome thing. So when you set this up, you can set up your learning environment. You can set up this, the thing that's kind of positioned right at the edge. Like, we tried this and it was amazing, right? And then these other 2 things can be kind of peppered in between everything else. So obviously videos and audio don't have to have their own section. They're going to be kind of scattered throughout, and as well as your reflections. We do want you to have this sort of culminating reflection at the end, but we do want you to be thinking too that there are going to be moments throughout the first part of the presentation where you are going to be able to reflect or think about sharing what you were thinking at that moment. And then your big idea at the end. If this sort of swirly shape drives you crazy, there's some other ways to organize this, right? First, second, third, visually. Just so you all know, I shorthand everyone can create and everyone can code as ECC squared. So that's what that means, that kind of notation in the lower left corner. And then CBL is challenge-based learning. So this is kind of one way to think about it. You can also do a fill in the blank kind of situation where I have my name is, and I'm a blank teacher at blank. This year we did blank with my students. You've got some sort of awesome stuff. And then you have your reflection, and this is what I do in the future. So that is kind of the visual version, as well as the sort of bullet point version of what we're kind of moving toward. And again, next week is your chance to practice that. If you want to practice one part and you don't necessarily have an awesome thing yet, and you want to practice, it kind of is really dependent on where you are in your process and in the projects with your students.